You've probably heard it before. Combine Stoicism with Taoism. Use both philosophies. Get the best of both worlds. Eastern wisdom meets Western discipline. It sounds perfect. It sounds balanced. And that's exactly why it doesn't work. Here's what I've found after watching hundreds of high performers. Most people who try to blend these two end up paralyzed, not enlightened, paralyzed, and they don't understand why. They're trying to be the Stoic sage and the Wu Wei master at the same time. Control and surrender, discipline and flow. The tension between them doesn't create wisdom, it creates confusion. Let me be direct with you for a second. The problem isn't that you're lazy at either one. The problem is that you're treating them like they're meant to coexist equally. They're not. And once you understand this, everything changes. Think about the last time you tried to force yourself to be disciplined and relaxed simultaneously. Control and trust at the same time. Your nervous system doesn't know which instruction to follow. Your decision-making gets foggy. You freeze in the middle. Most people don't realize this, but the ancient masters understood something we've forgotten. They weren't trying to merge opposites. That was never the goal. The real reason Stoicism and Taoism seem contradictory is because they're designed for different phases of action. But that's not all. There's another layer here. Stoicism was born in a world where you had to make deliberate choices in chaos. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. He had to decide, he had to commit, he had to impose his will on circumstances. Control what you can control. That was his survival strategy, his necessity. Taoism emerged in a different context entirely. The ancient Chinese sages had already made their choices. They'd stepped back from constant decision-making. They were asking, once I've committed to a direction, how do I move through it with the least resistance? How do I let circumstance work for me instead of against me? They were answering different questions. And here's what nobody tells you. They're meant to be sequenced, not merged. This is where it gets interesting. The elite performers I've studied, the ones who actually operate with both Stoic discipline and Taoist ease, they follow a hidden pattern. Most of them don't even know they're doing it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. They use Stoicism for the decision. They use Taoism for the execution. That's the sequence. Watch it unfold. When a decision point comes, and they come constantly, these people engage their inner Stoic. They get rational. They examine what's actually in their control. They ask the hard questions. What do I actually want? What can I influence? What matters? They make a deliberate choice. They commit. This is the discipline phase. This is the control phase. This is where Stoicism shines. But here's what changes everything. Once the decision is made, they drop the Stoic grip. They shift completely. They engage their inner Taoist. Now they're asking different questions. How do I execute this with minimum wasted energy? Where's the natural current? What am I forcing that could unfold instead? They move with Wu Wei. They flow. They trust the direction they've chosen, but they let the path reveal itself. They're not white-knuckling the outcome. Think about a professional athlete. The Stoic phase is the off-season, the training, the decision about what they're training for, what their goal is, what they're willing to commit to. That's control. That's discipline. That's asking hard questions. But when they step on the field, when they're in the game, the moment they try to think about every movement, trying to stoically control every muscle, every decision, they fall apart. They choke. The best athletes are doing something else. They're trusting their preparation. They're moving with the game. They're in Wu Wei, effortless action, flow state. They've surrendered to what they prepared for. But here's the problem most people face. They're trying to do both at the same time. They're trying to make a decision while also not trying. They're trying to commit while also staying open. They're trying to control while also flowing. Their brain gets mixed signals. Their nervous system doesn't know whether to tense or relax. And they end up doing neither well. Notice your breathing right now. Feel the difference. When you're tense and trying to figure out what to do, your breath gets shallow. But when I asked you to notice it, when I pulled your attention to something specific, did you feel it shift slightly? That's the feeling of switching modes. Most people never practice that switch. They get stuck. Let me give you the real insight here. The ultimate mindset isn't about being equally Stoic and equally Taoist. That's the trap. The ultimate mindset is about sequencing them, being able to shift from one mode to the other as the situation demands. This is only half the story, though, because here's what separates the people who understand this from the people who don't. They understand when to make the shift. Most people get stuck in one mode. Some are always trying to control, always analyzing, always disciplining, never flowing, never trusting. They exhaust themselves. They miss opportunities. They're like a river trying to carve through a mountain instead of finding the valley. Other people are always flowing, always going with the current, never making hard decisions, never imposing their will on anything, never committing. They get swept wherever the current takes them. No direction, no intention. They're like a river that never decided where it wants to go. The real skill is knowing which mode you're in and when to switch. Here's what I mean in practice. When you're facing a major life decision, career change, relationship commitment, major purchase, this is a Stoic moment. This is when you need discipline, hard questions, rational analysis. What's actually in your control? What do you actually want? Don't be a passive floater here. Stoicism saves you from years of drifting. But once that decision is made, once you've committed to the direction, this is when Taoism becomes everything. Now you stop questioning. Now you flow. Now you notice where the momentum is, where things want to unfold naturally. You execute without overthinking. You trust your preparation. You're in Wu Wei. Forcing at this stage destroys what you built in the decision phase. Most people do this backwards. They agonize endlessly over decisions. That's Stoic analysis, fine. But then once they've decided, they keep stoically controlling and questioning and doubting. They never shift to Taoist trust. So they execute their good decision in the worst possible way, with constant resistance, with self-sabotage, with wasted energy, or worse, they never make a real decision at all. They float in Wu Wei, thinking it's enlightenment, no commitment, no direction, no intentional will. That's not wisdom. That's avoidance dressed as surrender. Let me show you what happens when you finally get this sequence right. You make a decision with Stoic clarity. You examine what's actually yours to control. You commit. You set your direction. This gives you a spine. This gives you intention. Then you execute with Taoist ease. You stop forcing. You watch for the path that wants to open. You flow. You trust. But here's the key. You're not flowing randomly. You're flowing toward a chosen destination. Your Stoic decision is the container. Your Taoist execution is the flow within that container. The two aren't contradictory anymore. They're complementary. They work together because they're operating in sequence, not in conflict. When you operate like this, something remarkable happens. People look at you and say, "You're effortless." You seem to have no friction. Things work out for you. You're aligned, lucky even. But you know the truth now. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's not some mystery. It's the disciplined decision-making of Stoicism, followed by the effortless execution of Taoism in the right sequence, at the right time. You're combining 2,000 years of wisdom, but not by trying to be both at once. You're combining them by knowing when each one serves you best. This changes how you approach your day. This week, notice it. When you're faced with a choice, should I pursue this opportunity? Should I end this relationship? Should I make this investment? Drop into Stoic mode. Get clear, get disciplined, get rational. Make a real decision. Then, once you've decided, shift. Drop the overthinking. Drop the constant questioning. Trust where you're going. Execute with Wu Wei. Let things unfold. Notice where the path wants to open. You'll feel the difference immediately. The confusion clears. The paralysis lifts. You're no longer fighting yourself. You're no longer trying to be two contradictory things at once. This is what the highest performers do. Most of them don't have names for it. They just know that some phases are for deciding, some phases are for flowing. Some situations demand control, some demand surrender. And they move between them with ease. Now you can too. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and keep it simple. See you tomorrow.